So for those of us who do not know who are you and what do you do?
My name is Brady. I go by Flintwick. I produce electronic music and DJ and tour, play shows, give lessons, make sample packs for other producers, and yeah, I have a couple different side projects. Acid Cats, my old band Deep Sequence that's been on hiatus for a bit, but my main thing is Flintwick, my electronic music production moniker, and yeah, content creator, musician, cat lover.
Where are you from?
So I'm from Fort Smith, Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, and I lived in Little Rock a couple years, maybe like 3 or 4 years, and just moved up to Fayetteville, which is also back to Northwest Arkansas, about 5 years ago. So that's where I'm currently stationed. So kind of back to the home region, Northwest Arkansas.
Tell us about your childhood growing up in Fort Smith.
Yeah, man, Fort Smith was all right to grow up in. And it was never really a place for the arts. Music and art was kind of on the back burner. It's just an average town. It's not like a big city or anything. I didn't have a whole lot of musical artistic influence around me growing up. But, right next door to Fort Smith is Fayetteville. So as I would get older and older and into live music, I would leave Fort Smith to go hang out in Fayetteville or Tulsa or other hotspots for music and art and bigger community for festival things like that. But growing up in Fort Smith wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It wasn't. I don't know. I don't really have like a super strong opinion. It's not like my hometown, but it's also not like my hometown. It's just there. It's cool. Love my family there.
So, at what age did you start making music, and when did you start taking it seriously?
Yeah, so the age I started making music's a little difficult. It's like whenever I was like growing up, like maybe when I was like maybe like 10 or something, I like my mom got me an electric guitar. Like I always wanted to be like a guitarist because I loved rock music and went through like all the different genre tiers as a kid of rock and metal and emo and punk and all this stuff. And I always wanted to be a musician, and I tried from like ages like 10 to like, I don't know, 13 or something, kind of tried. I did lessons, but I never really learned anything. I never really became a musician at that point. And then at some point, like when I was in like 7th grade, I think you're like 14 at that time, I heard dubstep like in some just like pretty cool electronic music. And I was just a gamer kid. I just like playing my Xbox. And at that point I was like, I have an electric guitar, but I don't really know what a chord is. I don't know what a scale is or any of that. I can play like a Nirvana lick. But as far as that goes, I'm like, I don't really care about being a musician, I guess. I don't think it's for me, even though I love music. But then I heard dubstep and I was like, how the hell do you make that? Like, okay, I'm going to figure out how you make this kind of weird electronic music. So I Google it. Look it up on YouTube, find tutorials, illegally torrent a bunch of software, and taught myself how to produce dubstep when I'm like in like 7th grade. And so I think that's kind of when I started making music, but it was more of like a technology thing I was interested in. I was more interested as like in the process, and I was making music to me, but it was still like more of a video game. Kind of. I still got that same dopamine release and satisfaction and interest and intrigue as like video games did. And so it still didn't totally feel like I was being a musician, but I was making music. And I eventually just kind of quit that hobby. It was like a hobby, and over the course of a couple of years after that, that's when I believe I became a musician. I picked up mandolin and I started learning scales and music theory, and like, yeah, just music theory. And once you kind of like understand that on one instrument, you, so long as you can make a scale on other instruments, you should be able to kind of feel your way around a melody, you know, and be able to kind of, you know, play that more or less. So after my little dubstep phase, my electronic phase, sound design, learning all of those things, but not really with any intention, just for fun, I eventually became that musician that I wanted to be when I was a child, and playing other instruments, you know, mandolin, guitar, bass, piano, all of that. And then I developed as a musician, as an artist, and didn't really like electronic music at that point. I was a hippie kid. Like, I liked jam bands and bluegrass and funk. And after I had all that foundation set in and built, I heard some good electronic music again. And I was like, oh, wait, I know how to make that shit. Oh, I don't know if I can curse or not, but I don't know. I know how to make that stuff. And now I know music theory. Hold on. Let's see what I can get. And like pretty much immediately, I you know, get the software legally, and just immediately started making decent beats and like decent compositions, because now I had this sound design knowledge from before, and I'm also older now, so I can understand deeper concepts of production. But now also I know music theory, so I can make melodies just like that. And so when I have this software and being able to make the music theory, or being able to make the music and the software and putting it together, it formed Flintwick, and it made like an actual idea of releasing music. And so all of that was in 2017, where Flintwick, I think that's when I released my first EP, was 2017, where I had, which I guess, I'm sorry, I had started producing well before releasing my first EP. So I'm not sure what year that was, at least 2014 or 15. Maybe 2015 I started producing a little more serious, and releasing something at 2017. So those are a lot of numbers, sorry. But yeah, that's kind of like how that all progressed into where I am now. And then I had Flintwick, and then my band Deep Sequence. So I was able to still get my riffs out and be able to play my instruments, but playing funk music with my band, because I need funk. I have to be able to do that. But I still also want to make my squishy, weird bleep bloop music. So that's kind of like how it all circled around, from trying music to making music but not really considering it music, to being where I am now.
So how did you come up with your name, Flintwick?
I wish I had a good story, but I just kind of thought of it one day. I was producing music for like a year, and over a year, but like, you know, making it serious for like a year. And I was like, I think I want to release stuff. I think I want to actually like do this artist thing, but I know I need a good name. It needs to be Googleable. I need to like, people need to remember it. It's got to be quick, easy. And so, and it also has to kind of reflect me and my name, and like, you know, I don't know, hear it years from now, and it's like, I can't think of a sound other than the Flintwick sound when I hear that word. So it was one of the first things I thought of. Just, it came to my head. It kind of has like an onomatopoeic quality. Flintwick. It's like got like a kind of little flutter to it, you know? And my music has that. My music has a lot of samples of little tings and tangs and chimes and yeah, it's kind of just, you know, flicky. Two words that kind of make one. But I didn't like it though. I didn't vibe with it that much. But after a year, and this is why I was not in a rush to release this music, because I didn't have an end goal. I wanted to release music because I love music, not because I wanted to be anything. So I had no pressure to settle into the first name I thought of. I spent an entire year continuing to master that craft, and also like being like, no, we're making lists of different names until something happens. In a year of making lists of different names, you know how many bad names you come up with. It's crazy. You come up with so many bad names. But one that kept coming back was Flintwick. And by the end of it, I'm like, man, I have to release this music. This is the only one. If I hate it, if I absolutely hate it, maybe I'll change it. And who knows? Maybe I'm gonna only get better and better. So if I need to change and rebrand, I don't know. We don't have to think about that right now. I just need to have a name that I'm okay with. And I'm okay with it and ran with it. And it's perfect. It's great. I wouldn't change it. Oh, and then later, I will say later, people are like, oh, it's like you're a fire starter, like Flintwick. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's fire. You're right. Yeah, didn't think of that at all. But you're totally right. Yeah, it's fiery.
Man, because your music doesn't really have your vocals in it, what are you saying through your music? What are you trying to tell us through your music?
Yeah, it's kind of tough. I like to make my music as a way of escape. I think a lot of people do. I like, I don't know, just with my music, I think there's a lot of breaking the fourth wall, so to speak. There's a lot of sounds that like aren't necessarily musical, but they, you know, like the sound of a door opening and closing, I can have in my music, and it triggers that imagery in the viewer. And it's not that I'm necessarily trying to tell a story. It's like I'm almost creating an environment, so to speak. I suppose that's the way to think of it. The main goal, or not main goal, like my main like overarching theme in my music is that it's psychedelic. You know, it's organic and tricks the listener into wondering like what is synthesized and what is recorded. You know, having like a rhythm. I want like, you know, maybe the first initialize into the song, I want somebody to think of being on the dance floor. I want the imagery of like being at a funk show and like everybody's getting down, and then whenever the drop happens, it's not that I'm necessarily I think more than anything it's fun to trick the listener and make them question like what in the world was that sound? Like, you know, you hook them in with the funk, and then the drop happens, and it's a tearing, spiraling, like weird rubbery texture that you may have never heard before, besides like it kind of reminds you of squeaking a balloon or something, but then now you're hearing it in a weird musical context, and it's like, I don't know, it like hits this like primal organic text, like feeling in you. It incites this like almost like ASMR does, like a trickle up your spine of like, ooh, like what was that like organic real world texture that's never typically in music, and it's not being used in a way that, you know, like a movie uses it. So it's just to create a weird psychedelic soundscape that you can also boogie down to, something that you can like dance to and get lost on the dance floor, but also something you can put some headphones in and listen to the same song 100 times and still find layers and textures that you'd never notice, or even just a melody or motif that kind of keeps going, that you've heard the song 100 times and you never even noticed that little cat meow right there in the corner in the left of your speaker. So I just like those moments and like those fine micro edits and those small details, you know, getting home, pulling up to the driveway and like listening to the rest of the song, and just like, you know, after a long shift, getting lost in all the textures and stereo panning and everything. That's kind of where I go for it.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Man, you've released a lot of albums and a lot of singles. Mm-hmm. Which album or single was your breakout album or single? Like which one whether it was an album or a song, what did you release and you were like, man, people are really paying attention to me?
Yeah. So, it's kind of hard. I feel like I've always had just like a very, very steady uprising. it's always just been like super steady, not like any huge spikes. Usually from like a big show, like playing a big show, like I'll see like more of a spike in my fan base. But like I know my EP, Lurching EP was was a pretty big one, because that EP, I make so many genres. Like, you know, I don't have an overarching genre. I mean, it kind of is. It's like glitch hop is like kind of the umbrella that my multi-genre goes into, because it can be a lot of different things, I suppose. And you can kind of inject glitch hop into all the different genres. So I haven't released my range, you know. And so Lurching had a little bit more range than all my other releases. It's a 4-track, I think, EP. And, you know, it has one of my more psychedelic kind of bangers, and then it has a more funky banger, and then it has one of my vocal tracks, because I love making tunes with vocalists, but I don't have any released. I work with this vocalist Youngie, who's one of my best friends, and we have like an album of just amazing tracks with vocals in it, that we just, you know, random doodles of just hanging out and like eventually not finishing them. You know, a lot of good ideas, half finished. But I finally released one of our songs on there. So finally put out a vocal track and then also a drum and bass track. So it has, you know, a good bit of my range on it. And I felt just really proud of that. Like, it was my first EP that I felt like was actually just boom, punched. I felt really proud of it. Would I say it totally broke me through? Not like, it wasn't like a huge breakthrough, but I did get a lot of eyes on me on that. But I think really my first song that popped off was Jumbo Scrimp. it's just like this weird kind of experimental trap track that like, I didn't think it was anything like, it's nothing too revolutionary or like crazy, but I think it had some weird Flintwicky ideas that put people on and be like, oh, okay, this is somebody doing something a little different, at least, you know, like there is a uniqueness to this forming. Looking back on it, it's like looking back at all my old music is so embarrassing. But that one I still vibe with. I still like that one. It doesn't make its way into my sets, though maybe I'll like remix it so it stands up to my more modern production. But that was a good one that kind of put me on the radar a little bit, I think.
What places has your music taken you to? And what is your favorite place to go to, like doing touring or whatever?
For sure. So it's, I mean, really kind of all over. Now at this point I've been north, west, east, and south, and all over. Denver and Colorado is going to be like always, as far as electronic music goes, Denver is going to be like the biggest hub for that, for sure, especially for my music. And so it's always fun to play Denver. There's some good venues. It's fun. The Pacific Northwest is my favorite. Like, I love Oregon and Washington. I actually haven't played in Oregon, but I played a festival in Washington called Ohm on the Range. Love that place so much. Meow Wolf was one of my favorite venues I've played. It's a popular art installation venue, and they have a couple throughout the States, but there's one in Denver that I headlined a couple years ago. And that was probably that was my first like big headline venue show. Like, it was like I had always wanted to play at Meow Wolf, always. The one in Santa Fe before they made the Denver one. So that was a big deal to me. And then the Mishawaka Amphitheater I did last year, headlined that, which was actually the first place I ever played in Colorado. I was playing at a festival there. And then Full Circle Moment headlining it last year for Bliss Fall Music Festival. That was an awesome moment as well. But those are some of my favorite places. Asheville, North Carolina is really beautiful. I try to think of like some kind of weird situations. I've been in so many. I've played random private parties in mansions, like castles, and been in some wild little environments. I really need a list of this stuff because it kind of just like it all jumbles together whenever there's so many like just weird little spots to play music. But yeah, Denver's a pretty common place. Yeah, it's taken me around. I've gotten offers from other countries. I got an offer to play in Israel a couple of years ago, but my visa hadn't worked out in time. But hopefully, we get something going in a different country next year. I'd like to do it this year, but realistically next year.
What has been some of your biggest accomplishments? It can be outside of music,
Yeah.
but what have been some of your biggest accomplishments in life?
Oh man, I'm so hard on myself. I have nothing ever feels accomplished yet. Like,
I know what you mean.
you know what I'm saying? Well, I suppose some of my biggest accomplishments. I think just breaking through the barrier in the first place, being able to like make an original sound and get on an agency. Like getting on my first talent agency was a big deal. I mean, it was huge because I was also a big agency for my music at the time, and like some of the people I was listening to when I was in junior high playing video games and heard about dubstep, I ended up on their talent agency for my first one, and like that was just like wild to think about. Like, I'm hanging out with this dude that inspired me when I was a kid. Like, this is crazy. I'm opening for him. Like, I didn't even know that shows happened back then. When I was making dubstep and making that, I didn't know that concerts were a thing like that. I did not care about raves. I just thought it sounded cool. And now I'm playing massive shows with these people. And so that was a huge accomplishment. Or one of my big inspirations in Canty, of Zebler and Canty Experience, he invited me to do a workshop for his online class. And that was a big deal, you know, just getting his support and like, you know, his backing. And then all the other bigger artists that I really looked up to throughout the years hit me up asking for advice. And I'm like, yeah, dude, hell yeah. You want my advice? Like, of course. Those are all just really big accomplishments to me. Headlining the Meow Wolf, that was a big deal. Headlining the big shows, like a lot of those big moments, playing big stages are all huge accomplishments to me. That's just getting out of my hometown and like forcing myself out of my comfort zone in general. It's a big deal. But yeah, I mean, those are a couple things that come to mind. Getting my kitty is my most important thing in my life, probably.
So in contrast, when were you at your lowest point and how did you get out of that?
Mm-hmm. So let's think of when was I at my lowest point? Oh, well, I mean, COVID, probably. Like, it's like, I had, because really, like, I haven't, I have always been so go. I have to be successful. I have to grind. I have to keep grinding. I won't allow myself time to be low, I guess, which is silly. Like, it's not like actually tangible like that, but like I'm like I can escape and avoid a lot, you know. So if I do feel that like low moment, it's like it doesn't matter. I'm gonna still tell myself you still have to wake up and show up because you didn't go to college, bud. You gotta have you need to do something. I think that's always been a huge thing, is that since I didn't go to college and growing up, you know, you're pressured that that's what you do. You need to do that, and that's how you be successful. That's how you get your career. That's how you do that. If you don't, you're going to disappoint your family. You're going to disappoint people around you. All the bullshit, that you tell yourself or are raised on, depending on where you're at. What I was kind of raised on. My parents, not to say my parents were ever really strict on that. They're actually really blessed and grateful that my parents have always been very supportive of my feelings and whatever I do and want to do. If I don't want to go to college, then that's whatever. It's going to be like, okay, well, you got to do something type thing, kind of. But I think I always had my own pressure, my own thumb just always being like, hey, you didn't do like what everybody around you did, which not everybody around me did, but it's like that was the pressure. You can't, you got to figure something out. If the music thing, you do it. You got to do the music thing. Wake up and do it. Wake up and practice, or else you got to find something else. And right now you're out of high school, you're living alone or, with roommates in Little Rock. You don't have much time to like fuck off and mess around. So I went from high school to early 20s and musician and playing at music festivals. So I'm having fun. I'm always having a good time, and I'm like enjoying my early 20s. I'm making lifelong friendships all around me. And also the passion and seriousness I'm putting into my music is being very clear. I mean, it's clear if you practice, people are going to notice that. If you show up every day, like it's not just going to be for nothing. And all the while building these friendships and having fun and relationships, I'm also feeling satisfied more and more. But looking back on it, like, yeah, I just played a little music festival for $200. It's not that big a deal, but back then I made that big step, and that was a big accomplishment back then. Like, if you had asked me what's my biggest accomplishments, maybe that could have been in it back then. And now looking back on it, I think it's like, oh, that was cute. But that's how you build up. You have to take baby steps and keep doing that. And so the low part happened whenever I wasn't able to play shows anymore. Whenever everything halted and, for one, socialization stopped, COVID, all the things that we all dealt with. I wasn't really able to make music during that time. The thing that made me happiest, and like a big reason I make music is, for one, for my own self-enjoyment, but two, it's for the dance floor. I love making people dance. Like, I love the vibe, the curation. I don't care if I'm on stage and they're seeing me, but as long as my music is forming the dance floor and forming the vibes and people being able to distract themselves from that bullshit back home and just enjoy life and enjoy not even thinking about anything besides these melodies and stuff, that whenever that isn't happening, it's really hard for me to keep my inspiration and keep my motivation to produce and make bangers. So it was so difficult, COVID, because you have half of the people that are like, hell yeah, I can make so much content, I can perfect my craft, I can stay in here and practice. But me, somebody that is fueled by the reactions of others, which is also like weird and conflicting like in my own head, because I'm like, am I making it for myself or am I making it for others? It is both. I'm not making it to be seen. I can say for sure I'm not making it for clout. I'm not making it to be that popular guy on stage, but I am making it for others and my own self happiness. When I don't have that, I would sit down in the studio and just nothing. And so that made me feel really down. It didn't feel good. I'm like not releasing much. I'm not posting on my socials. And, my growth, like I had always said, it was like a steady growth. It definitely was like, like that for a bit. I was working on an EP during that time. And that was like the only thing like kind of keeping me tied. And I'm like, okay, if I can just get this EP pumped out and released by the end of this, I'll be happy, as long as I can do that. But it was really hard, and I felt really low. And I think around that time, I think I was also dealing with a breakup. Was that whenever the breakup happened? I don't know. Something else with all that. I don't know. It was just low. And my band also, like, that was also a huge thing. Which these days I barely even talk about, but that was a whole other huge thing in my life, was my band, just as much as Flintwick. And us being able to play music, that was a whole different feeling and love that I also needed and missed. Two different feelings of performance that I missed. And, we just also weren't, we were going through things then, I think, as well, because we had been going through different drummers and having to reconfigure, our motif, or not our motif, our way about writing, and also catching up our new member on things, and going through all these weird changes of the band while we can't make new things and while we don't have this inspiration. So all of that felt super low. I felt like I was getting lost in the dust. Like I was really on a good growth and good come up, but then I wasn't, I wasn't keeping my momentum that I had always been so good about. Like, I'm always so strong on my momentum and tough on myself on keeping it going. But I didn't throughout that. And I was able to, throughout that time, I was working on this EP as my like reggae inspired EP, because it was inspired of being at a music festival barefoot, getting down to some fucking reggae, just like skanking with all my friends, like and that was like, that's all I could think about in COVID. Like, that was so beautiful. I just want to dance the reggae with my friends, barefoot, at a music festival. And so that's where that EP, if you listen to that EP, there's a song called Barefoot. Just imagine that, like, that was me. That was my, like, in COVID, that was like my little safe zone. I'm like, okay, you're beautiful. Everything's beautiful. It's at a music festival. Nothing bad's happening. And reggae everybody's getting dubby, and the bass is just kicking. It's good. Everything's happy. So I released that after COVID, and that's like the only thing I made during COVID really was, I made a bunch of random stuff, but that was my COVID project. I was able to get that through. So that was my low point. Made it through COVID, and sadly still dealing with all the aftermath now that the scene is what it is and live music is just gutted, from that. But that was the low. And that's how and coming out of it, COVID stopped, and I was able to play music again and release music. But that being said, there was that residual low even after releasing that. So it's kind of like releasing music is like, going back to the gym. It sucks for a bit. And then once you get it, you start feeling good. Your mental health is good. You're able to get in your routine. Once I started releasing my music again, like even after that EP, it was still a little tough to like kind of dial back in, but I did. And then that kind of wrapped it back, and then just getting back on my routines and playing shows again kind of pulled me out of that hole.
Great. That's great. So really quickly, if you had to say one thing to that musician out there who feels like they can't become successful, what would you say to that musician?
I'd say, well, anybody can. Anybody can be successful. So long as you are blessed to be in an environment that you're able to make music and record, and obviously there are countries and places that like, you know, you can't like, but we know what we're talking about here. Anybody in America with an instrument and at least connections and ability to socialize, man, actually, you know, honestly, I'm thinking of too many privileges, you know, to even say the beginning of that answer. What would I tell the person who doesn't feel that they can be successful? You absolutely can. It is practice. It is dedication. It's connections. You know, you do have to go out. You have to meet people. You can do it on the internet, you know. And even if you don't, you know, as long as you're able to find the software, I guess, as long as you're able to get yourself recorded. Let's say to this musician who has themselves recorded, I'm thinking too specifically, like anybody can do it, but what if you don't have a guitar? But let's say, okay, you are going to be a musician, you have a song recorded, you can be famous, you can be successful. Or, I'm sorry, famous is a different thing. At the end of the day, money does do it. You can pay for advertising. I think there's one thing in like, at least in my scene, we see a lot of musicians just blow up because they had a good song. You don't really know the steps that it took to get that song into the right ears to blow up. Sometimes people just straight up have a good hook, good melody, they got in the right ears completely randomly, and it's a gamble, and they made it. A lot of times people don't know these big artists are paying a lot of money for advertisements. It's always been that way. It's not just you get a good TikTok, because these days it can be that. It can be you just make TikToks and it's not even about your music, but now suddenly you're world famous because you built yourself up on TikTok so much, but then interjected your music once you had the following, or, you know, you're throwing it in periodically. But I don't know. I want to just like use myself as an example, because somebody that's been making experimental music for so long and has been grinding for so long, it didn't just happen overnight. I could have gone the easy route and just made a genre that has an established base. Like, there are genres that have established bases, but you can create your own, like, your own scene, your own base, your own fan base by, I don't know, being yourself. You don't have to make content. You can pay for advertisement. The whole you have to make content thing, that's more of a roundabout way of, like, you know, Facebook and Instagram wants you to pay for ads. They want to make it as difficult as possible to make, you know, your music be seen. But you can make content, and they're okay with that, and that can blow up. At the end of the day, you can play their game. You can pay for those ads, and you can blow up. It sucks, but it is that. I mean, you see rappers, you see massive artists that through money that they did not make from music going into the music, you know, money from other profits, throwing thousands and thousands of dollars into music, you can just become an artist, you know? So it's a matter of, like, how authentic do you want to be to yourself? What kind of artist do you want to be? How original do you want to be? I knew that I know I could get a lot of fans if I make a more minimal dubstep track. I know that. That's the analytics. Or if I make an ambient track or something. That's an avenue that I could go down and has a almost definite result. Like, there you know, there are steps that you can take. If you practice, release on this thing, release on this label, release to these people, you can be that big. You can be that artist that you're aspiring to be. But if you want to be that, I didn't want to be that artist. I wanted to be somebody that is, like, transcends genres, that whenever you think of me, you don't think of me grouped together with 5 other artists. You think of me as, that is definitely a specific vibe, as a specific person. And that is the long run, and it sucks, and it's not for the faint of heart, because that's trying over and over again, feeling like nobody's hearing your stuff, like trying every option possible, paying for ads, but also making content, doing that, do everything the long way, and building yourself as an artist. You can do that. It's just gonna take dedication and practice. That was a lot harder than I thought it'd be to answer, because I feel like I've thought of that question many times, and I feel like I've answered it so well many times, but something about thinking out just now just made it real difficult to kind of give a definite answer there. But you can do it. Just practice, and don't bank on, and make sure every cup is filled equally. You can't just fill the social media cup over and over and over again while your music, you're not practicing. Your music has to get better too. You know, you have to keep perfecting your art. You have to fill that cup. But then there's also socializing and meeting the people, and going out and meeting people in the industry. That's extremely, extremely important. And it sucks for social or introverted people, which a lot of artists are. It sucks being like that, but, you know, it doesn't necessarily have to be a super social situation. Just introducing yourself to somebody, sending a link to somebody, you know, like maybe 1 out of 10 people you send a link to actually clicks and listens to it. But like, what if those 10 people were all, you know, label owners or people who throw shows in Arkansas, or, you know, people that could present you opportunity. You know, like, it's a lot of times people see an artist just blow up and think that, I mean, like I said before, they see an artist blow up and think that they just ended up in the right ears and it was a gamble. There are, like, that is kind of how it is, but like, there are ways to rig the system around it so that it kind of reaches those ears. And so that, yeah, I know. I think that's kind of the general thought, you know. It's like that's pretty much it. I can't, I'm getting lost there. I'm getting lost in too many avenues.
Yeah, that was great. That was great.
Thank you.
If people want to get in contact with you, how would they?
So you can always shoot me a DM. I'm not the best at responding, but at the very least, you can go to my website, flintwick.net, and I have my email right there. I have a general contact. I have a contact for if you want to book me for a show. It will immediately like send the form to my agents. And I have a contact for, if it's all in contact on flintwick.net, you can book a lesson. I do private lessons for sound design and music production and stuff, which I want to plug something about that at the end. So you can book a lesson through the website. You can hit up my agents, or you can just message me directly. I also master music, so you can hit me up, see if I'm available to master your track. And yeah, that's my main forms of contact.
Okay. What did you want to plug in?
Oh yeah, so it hasn't been announced yet, but me and another really awesome producer, O Losha, we are going to start a beat series, like a workshop series here in Fayetteville for Northwest Arkansas, for people interested in learning to produce electronic music or hip hop, or produce hip hop instrumentals. We won't be covering vocal tracking, but it's for electronic music production. It's going to be a 6-week series with musicians such as myself doing 2-hour workshops for only $15. So we're thinking it's going to be like a Tuesday or Wednesday. We'll announce it. Just keep an eye on my socials for all this. But it'll start like a weekly. During the weekday, we all gather in a big room. I got screens all behind me, and we do like a college professor workshop style music production class where I just teach you my sound design techniques, and you basically get an insane deal. My lessons are usually 60 an hour. Well, they had been 50 an hour this year. They're 60 an hour. These are going to be 2-hour workshops, so 120 typically for me, for $15. So it's an insane deal. I'm always like not disappointed, but like I wish there were more producers around. I really wish there were, because there's so many DJs, and they're always all the awesome DJs and all my homies, and they're like, I'm going to get into producing. I'll hit you up eventually. And they never do. And nobody ever does. Like, and I understand we all, which, I mean, I will say I learned on YouTube, and I would recommend YouTube before me even. How's that for a plug? Go to YouTube before you get to me. Come to me for advanced stuff. If you want me to teach you the basics that you can all learn on YouTube, that's fine. Happy. That's great. Honestly, it would be better to learn the basics from me, because I'm going to tell you none of the fluff. But I understand it might be a little expensive. I am putting it right here at your door for $15. Even if you don't have the software and you like electronic music, you like hip hop, and you're like, I wonder how that's even made. Come sit down. It's like the price of going to the movies, and you can see touring artists, like nationally touring artists, tell you exactly how it's done and how to get there. So yeah, that was the main thing I want to plug. And then, check out my website for I have merch, sample packs, and for more producer tools, I have sample packs. I design presets, and I got merch, and you can find my tour, all the shows I'm playing this year. I got a couple festivals coming up, and yeah, those are all the main things. Oh, also right now, Lucid is on his way to my house to work on the second Acid Cats album, which is, we didn't talk about it, but I have my side project Acid Cats, which is a collab between me and Lucid. And he's on his way right now. So that's going to be a big album release, probably at the end of the year. We'll see how it goes. We don't even know what's going to come.
Okay. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you so much for doing this for the community and for me, for other musicians.